This conference will now be recorded.
Sir, we couldn't hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Seems you are on mute.
Okay, sorry. Guys, can you hear me okay? Hello? Now can
Yes,
you hear
yes.
me?
Now
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry for that confusion. Okay. So I was actually saying that, the any company, maybe I just want to understand any company, what do you think is the biggest asset for any company?
security,
Is it
resources,
employee?
employee.
Okay.
Yes.
What else? What else? What else?
Data.
Their office. Exactly. So if you see infrastructure, exactly. So all the if you see, right, the most important asset for now in any organization is their asset, is their data. Because data, maybe earlier we were thinking that data is not having any importance, but definitely it got changed everything. Facebook, for example, Google, for example, YouTube, for example, they are all actually here just because of their data. And the more data they have, the definitely the more benefits they are having. I'm not talking about data is just in form of images, videos, and all. The data could be your or my personal information. That is also a data, right? Because if you see Facebook or all these companies, they are actually selling or using the data, utilizing the data, and they are making a lot of money out of that. Okay, so that's where the data is really becoming a hello. Yeah, so data is becoming a very critical for any organization. Now when you have a data, right, the biggest challenge for that data is for the company, from the company perspective, is that how to store that data, right? How to store that particular data, where to store that data, first of all. Okay, where to store that data, so that data can be really secure and easily accessible for all the users they want to really give it to. And then the third and important thing is how you can ensure the high availability of that data, correct? Because in case if I'm storing my images or videos, nowadays you are really having images and storage, then definitely that is also one of the important. Now while ensuring all these things, all these factors, there's one more important aspect is coming as a growing demand for this one, right? So how they can really have a scalability inside your data. So high availability is one of the aspect, right? High availability means that data is, once I'm storing that data, is definitely that data is available. Even though my server is going down, even though my system is going down, even though internet goes down, I want that data to be really secure and again available through whenever I want. So it's not like I'm storing some data, and in case if I want to access that data, definitely I'm having a lot of trouble. I don't want that. Any company doesn't really want that. The second thing is the scalability, right? 1 minute. Now, when we talk about scalability, is all about, in case if I have today, I have a demand of 10 GB, say like in your laptop or in your mobile phone. Okay, you might be having a limited capacity, maybe, but nowadays there are a lot of good mobiles actually which came, but they are coming with 128 GB or 256 GB of RAM or a hard disk actually where you can store that much data only. But how about in case if you are going out of limit, like 256 is already consumed, you have only two options: either you delete the older images or photos or something, or you actually upgrade your system, or you start putting that data online to something like a Google Drive or any other online services, right? That's what today we have an option. But as an organization, you can imagine that when an organization is working, they are having a petabytes of data, like huge data, and every day they are generating a lot of data. Now how they can really ensure that the scalability or the demand for growing data is getting fulfilled? Okay, that's where they always look for an option, an online option which can really help them to really put that data in a more structured, unstructured or a semi-structured way. Now that's where the data categories really comes into the picture. Every data, when I'm talking about, right, that data is actually coming in a multiple flavors, right? Data is one thing, but again you have to categorize that data. It's not like every data is only image or only mobile numbers or only email address. Nothing like that, right? There could be some application related information, there could be some finance related applications, the information, that could be something like or maybe a data I'm talking about, say like finance data or your HR data, your employees data, your selling data, whatever the sell or buying actually you're doing, that particular data. Okay, so these kind of things. And apart from that, you might have also have some documents, you might have also have some images, you might also have some videos actually which you have really created. Okay, so this is also a different types of data which is really there. So on a high level, there are three structure or the three categories which we can really consider when we are talking about the data. So those categories are a structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. Now, when I talk about, so these are the three major categories or kind of like a distribution, if you see, that we are really putting up these things. Now, when you have this distribution, as I say mentioned, right, in company also, not all only one type of data company is really having. They are having all sort of data. So they are now separating out with these terminologies. Now, when I talk about structured data, what is structured data? Okay, so structured data, or maybe I will go little from left to right, or right to kind of like left, wherein let's talk about the unstructured data first. What is unstructured data? So the unstructured data is everything which is having no structure. For example, your images, your videos, okay, your audio files, your files, in case if I really ask you, your exe file, your mp4, whatever is something which is not structured. That means that when you are uploading your images, right, you don't generally rename or name those images. Correct? Say like in case if I ask you, hey, you have 1000 images, can you give me the images which are actually from your last summer holiday in Switzerland, for example, or in Kerala or in Goa? Is it possible? Yes, maybe there might be folders which nowadays companies are really creating. But in case if I ask you directly, get it from your mobile camera or maybe camera, and can you show me? Maybe you'll have a very hard struggle actually to really get into that one. Imagine you are having that only for your few photos or images, maybe 100 images or 200 images, 1000 images. Consider that one. But imagine if a company is really having millions of documents or millions of images, how they can really manage that? And that is where it get considered as a unstructured data, because there is no structure for that particular data. So they want just to dump that data, and whenever they want to really take out the information, they can really take out. File is one part of it. File, you can really have a mechanism wherein you can search it using the search it using your file name. But photos, images are really difficult to really search that what exactly is there in the, unless you really name that particular video or image. So that is a unstructured data. Now, when we talk about structured data, so there are again two components: structured and semi-structured. Now, what is this semi-structured and structured? So the structured data is nothing but a database, okay, which we generally call it as. So what is database and why database is a structured database? So the structured database, and that's where the SQL, right? Structured query language really comes into the picture, which we generally name as a RD, your MySQL server, your SQL server, your Oracle server. These are all SQL. These are all SQL databases, which are the structured databases. Okay. Now, how this becomes structured database? Because here, say like I have a data which is a employee data, for example, right? So I can have an employee ID, okay, and I can have an employee name. This is my table which I'm actually creating inside my database. Now inside this one, I can start adding one, maybe RK. Then I can start adding two here. Okay, I can start adding two, and then maybe ABC. I can add three. I can have whatever name I'm actually putting. Now inside this one, I can also start adding some more information about this one. For example, I can add a team name here. So I can say this is a DevOps, a developer, this is DevOps person, and this is a operations person, right? Now why I'm actually putting up all this information? Because say like I have currently have only three details with me, but imagine I have 300 or 3 lakhs records in this particular thing. Okay. Now, with this structured data, what I can do, I can actually filter out the information. And Excel can also be an option for that. Excel is also a structured kind of like a table which will provide you the flexibility that you can inform this one. Now, inside this one, in case if I want to query, okay, I want to query only because there might be an option that, there is a fourth guy, okay, whose name is maybe, something like Amit, for example, and then he's also a developer. And then say like I have one more guy, say like Gopinath, for example, okay, and he's a DevOps, and he's a DevOps again. Now I want to know for 5 people, I maybe easily get it saying that okay, I have two developers, I have a two DevOps person, but I have only one guy who is into the operations. But imagine if I have 10,000 employees, definitely it will be a very difficult for me to go through one by one line and get it done. That's where the structured query language will really come in. And this is where your query language will run something where the select, for example, I'm just giving a very high level understanding about how you really query this thing. So you are going to select, okay, all the names, employee names, where, okay, and from maybe the table name, actually I'm say where from table, and this table name is employee table name, okay, the name of this table is say like employee. So this table, employee table, from table name employee, say like employee, I want to get employees where team equal to day, for example. Now this is how you structured a query here, or you write a query that which will go to this table and can fetch you that information. And no matter how many records you have in this one, okay, no matter you have how many details which you really added into the database, doesn't really matter. It can be 1 lakh, it can be million, it can be 100 million, it can be anything, because the capacity you have, the capacity you need, your SQL server will really provide you that. And you can have bunch of other things, you can have a group of things. For example, I want to get only the numbers, because here this query will give me all the names. But imagine I have 10,000 users. Out of those 10,000 employees, I have 2,000 developers who are actually there in the things, and then there are maybe 500 DevOps people. I want to get the total of them. Is it possible I can get it? Yes, you can get that. That is will be actually for the reporting, right? Because reporting purpose, I need to know. For example, I can create one, say like I have a developer equal to 100 developers, and DevOps engineer say like equal to 20, for example. So I want to get this list from this table, from this structured table. How can I get it? I can actually run a query, and then I can get that information. And this is what your application will also really read. So how application is reading this information? So whenever you build, whenever you create an application, okay, whenever you create an application, you start this. This is your like backend application. Whenever we talk about, right, this backend application and the front end application, okay. maybe your for whatever your mobile application, I'm talking about your mobile application, right? You're searching from the mobile app. Now this mobile app is connected to your database is actually connected your backend, and backend is connected to this database, the structured database. Now what is happening? You are querying something to your backend. Your backend is creating this query and sending that to your database, and then asking that information, hey, give me all the likes. For example, when you are searching for the mobile number, you are asking your backend saying that, hey, show me how many likes I am having what for my mobile, for my video which I just posted. Okay, or maybe I posted last week. What this backend will do, it will go, it will read out all the, because it will have a different table, right? It will have a table which will have all the likes. So they will say, okay, this is the name of your name of you, your video, and then all the user actually who liked it. So it will do the complete count, and after the count it will give you the exact count that, okay, in this table I can see there are like 200 likes for your video, and then that 200 likes information will be provided or passed on to your mobile application. So this is how, you know kind of like a backend services, or in a backend the application really works out. Whatever you are seeing is a beautiful number saying that, okay, you are liking, you are seeing, okay, I have 20 followers, I have 10 followers, I have 100 followers, my video is liked by these many people, my I got the comments, all that information. Where are we saving that information? That information is actually gets saved into something like a structured database. So far with me, guys? Any questions?
So simply we can say that the structured data means SQL database, and unstructured means you can say uh, which is not related to database. Correct, no?
Yeah, so again, that's a good point. So structured database, first of all, let's understand. So I hope you are able to get the structured database is everything which we really talk about the databases. Okay. Now, in database also, you have a semi-structured database. Okay. Now, when you talk about, so structured is clear that it's a pure database where you have a structured database. Unstructured database is something which we are also clear that it is all images and all this. Now, where the semi-structured database is really coming up, the what happened in a structured database, there is concept, okay, which is related with some fixed information. Some fixed information is what? For example, when I'm adding the details here, right? Say like in my table I have specified that I want to add employee ID, which will automatically say like get added whenever I'm start adding a new employee name or team. So like in case if I add here, sorry, if I add a new record here, right? New record will have say like maybe Ganesh, for example, and then I am adding a operations person here, or here's also a dev, say like, okay. Now this number, the sixth number will automatically get updated, because that's the nature of your data, the IDs whatever you are actually having, this number will automatically get added. Okay, but here when I'm adding a data into this table, the structure table, I need to ensure that I am adding all the required information. So I want to ensure that my employee name and team is in my database or in my table. So say like tomorrow if I come back and if I want to add more thing, for example Shankar, right? And then is also a dev, and then here I want to also add one more category for that person. So say like I want to add his email address. So his email address is shankar@gmail.com, for example, right? But here, because in my structure, in my schema, this is where the schema actually comes into the picture. We'll see how things really works out here. So there is a schema which you'll have to create. Now that schema is belongs to, say like here you have to create another field, okay, which will be say like email. If you do not have this field, you will not be able to add a data into this one. So that means you have to make sure the schema of your database or a table is predefined. Predefined means you have created four fields, and whenever you are adding information, you are actually allowing users to put up all four information. Okay, they cannot add any information, or if you can keep it optional, say like you keep it email as optional, Okay, you are saying this is not really required. I don't want everybody to really provide the email address, which is fine, but you still have to mention that yes, there is a email address which you can really provide. Unless that, you are not able to add a new data, because here if I click here, right, it will automatically ask me 4 fields. It's not asking me 3 fields only. Now why? Because this is a relational database. Okay, this is the kind of like a fundamental structure of a semi structured database, and it's a relational database. Now why relational database? Say like you have another table which you really created. Okay, now in this table instead of employee name, you are having a project. Okay, project name, and you have something like a details, project details. Okay, all right. Here you are saying that project one, for example, and let me just increase this one, project one, and maybe more details here. I'm saying project two, and some more details here. Like this one, I'm going to delete all those things. I don't really want this, so I am going to delete this, and I'm having a project three here. Okay, then again some information, and then here some information. Now what is happening? And here I don't want this, so I'm going to delete this. Okay, so I have this employee table, and now I want to also create table which will maintain the relationship between these two tables. What kind of a relationship? The relationship is something like I want to know. Okay, I'm saying this ID here, and I'm again putting up ID, so this will be project ID, for example, right? Now I want to know that employee and connect it with the project. Okay, so how can I really see this, or how can I implement this information? I can actually attach it, this information, 1 minute. um, what happened? Say like this table is really linked with this, what happened? Um, happened. Hmm, I don't know why it's not allowing. Wait a minute. Say like I'm creating one more here. Okay, here and here. This is connected to this one, and this. So, for example, this. 1 minute. This is connected with project information. Okay, or here I'm talking about project information here, and this guy is say like connected with this thing. I'm going to remove this. Okay, now I'm actually created one a table which is a relational table. Now what I'm going to put up in this table is that I want to map that which employee, select employee ID 1 is mapped with project 2, employee number 5 is mapped with project 3. Okay, and employee number again say like 6 is mapped with 3, for example. Now what is this? Now this is a relation between two different tables or within the table. So with this information, I have two different tables which are having a different data. Okay, one is having a project information, another one is having a employee information, but I am creating a relationship between them where I can know that okay, which employee is really connected with which project, or which assigned which project. Okay, so I can get that information. Now you can say you have actually put up one and here and two here. How that relationship is really working? That relationship is working always using the ID. Okay, so I can really put up a ID. I can say okay, this is my ID, this is my ID, this is how I can create a relationship, and this is where we call it as a relational database, the SQL relational database, the structured database. Now let's come to the unstructured database. Okay. Now what is this unstructured database? First of all, the best example of unstructured database is a NoSQL database. NoSQL. I'm sure you might have heard about NoSQL, or if not, then you will really get into that one. Now, in the NoSQL database, there is no schema actually which can be specified here. So, for example, it will have an employee ID, it will have an employee name, and I can actually provide every whatever I want in these fields, and there is no schema which I have really mentioned here. These are all just kind of like tables. So in here, for example, here I am talking about this table will not exist here. I can start adding any information whatever I want here in a tabular format or in a row format. Okay, so here I can put up a RK Dev, and I can directly put up a project name here. Select project 1, or I can put up project 2, project 3, whatever I want. I can actually keep on adding here project 1, project 2, project 3. Okay, I can also add any information, maybe his mobile number. Okay, now this is how I can keep on adding, and I can only add for second people. A person, I'm just adding two things. In case if next day I came and I want to really update something here, instead of project, I want to update his email address. I can actually put up an email here. I can put up his city here. Okay, tomorrow for the another person, I want to really create something, some different data, some same something like, okay, there is no schema here, so I can put up his degree, for example. I can just put up a degree here. I can put up whether he's or something, or he's on the payroll, or what kind of info. So here you can see there is no structure, there is no schema here, right? I'm putting any information, whatever the information I have inside this one. But the advantage with this one is that this is very fast to read and process, like MongoDB you might have heard about. Here, because it's a schema based, it's a relationship based, there is a performance issue with this. And you also have to ensure that when you are updating a data, you have to update that data in a very proper manner. Okay, so there are use cases, different use cases. For example, the use case could be in case if you are developing a CRM application or any accounting related application where you need a complete relationship. Because in accounting, right, you are not going to maintain everything in one table. You are going to maintain, say, like, I have purchased this much people, I have these many vendors with me. For every vendor, what is the cost which I'm actually paying, what kind of a bill I have created, what kind of invoices I have created. So all that data needs to be structured. The data needs to have a relationship. So when you are developing an application which is very heavy on the relationship, okay, like your for example, any accounting of option, any software any management application, your CRM application you might have heard about, all these data like SAP for example, right? It's all structured and relational databases which we are talking about, SQL, Oracle, all these things are required. But when we talk about MongoDB, right, again, say like you are building up a social media application, okay, e-commerce application or a cart or something like that. That's where you don't know the structure. You don't want to actually, don't want to create any structure here, or you want to just go simply and put up any information whatever is coming across your word. What do? You start putting that in any whatever the way you are coming, and you are putting that information. Because here, the one most important thing is ID will always be there. And then there are also a mechanism, there are also a query language which will actually support you and will give you all the information. Now what kind of a query I can really run? I can select here, select for example, I can again use some select. I'm just giving a select is a simple, but there are multiple other languages. Select ID equal to 1 and provide me all the data. So it will go, it will fetch all the information from this ID, and this will be in a JSON format. We'll talk about JSON and everything. It will be in a JSON format. Now I can say, I give me a query which is for 2, or I can ask me, give me the name, okay, or maybe give me data where a name like could be something like wherever you find that information that I have a project 1 person equal to project 1. So I want to get everybody who is having, or who is having a project 1 is there in that data. Give me that information. It can support that one. And this is again very fast. So there is a use cases. There is again a lot of information which we can really have. But on a high level, I wanted to really give you this information. So far with me, guys. Any questions? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Understood the difference between structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data, the SQL and the MySQL. This is again very high level. but this should really give you a basic understanding about why we are really using these three technologies. Okay, perfect. Now let's get into the actual world of Azure. Then how we talk about, okay, we talked about the theory, we talked about the fundamentals, the basics about maintaining the data, and this theory will really help you not only in the Azure but in an overall experience, right? You can now talk about the different type of data you can really manage and how should you really manage that data. But in a Azure, right, you will be provided with one service which is called Azure Storage Account. Okay, now that service will provide you four main core services, and this is one of the core service also I'm talking about, right? Because if you remember when we talked about the overall services provided by the cloud computing or the main services which every company really looking for, first thing is a storage. Okay, second thing is a security, third thing is a compute. Okay, and then fourth thing is all about automation, and then we are really coming across all these four things. Okay, and we'll see how we really get good. Now with along with this one, if you see, almost all the services are really coming into these four categories, main categories, right? Either you can see the application is for the development or a compute or something storage level or security level, so they are really coming into these four major buckets. Okay, now with this storage account, which is the first service which you are yesterday actually we seen the basic service which is for the identity and access management, right? The IAM, the access control, the active directory, and raw ID. Now we are going to get the hands-on experience on the storage. Why storage and how to really manage that storage? So when we talk about storage, Microsoft will provide you four core services within that storage account, because it will get created as a storage account. You have four things. One is the Azure Blob, table storage, file storage, and queue storage. Okay. Now, when we talk about these two services, these are all the main core enterprise ready and heavy production ready services which are available. Okay, now when I talk about blob, the blob is a binary large object which is for your unstructured database, right? Whatever unstructured, not database, unstructured data. So when I talk about unstructured data, everything I'm talking about here. So this all information you can actually store inside your blob. Okay, so you can have blob and you can actually use this blob to store all this sort of information, and you can store unlimited data, literally unlimited data. It supports unlimited data, and it's one of the cheapest service provided by Azure. So the cost for storing your data is quite cheap in Azure, right? So say like imagine you can store 100 GB or 1 terabyte data merely for maybe as somewhere around 500 or 600 rupees per month. That's the cost. Maybe lower than that. For individual, yes, it's high, but from the company or from the enterprise perspective, definitely it's very low, because to maintain the data inside a data center, it's a pain, right? Because the first thing, as I mentioned, right, you have to make sure you have a storage, you have a security, you have access control, you have availability, and you have a scalability. Okay, so these are all the four challenges which every enterprise really goes with. And when you talk about blob service is really solving these four problem or five problems. It is providing you the storage option, it is highly secure, it is accessible across the globe, you can have it anywhere access, it provides you high availability, and it also very scalable. And when I talk about high availability, is literally providing you four kind of like 7 to 8 times 9. So that means they claim that once you put up the file inside our blob storage, we it is unlikely to get lost. Why? Because by default, what they do, whenever you store any file into the blob storage, this blob storage actually get uh, you know replicated across multiple availability zone. Quick check, what is availability zone? Guys, please go ahead. Answer me. What is availability zone?
The multiple data centers where they have for the contingency plan.
Perfect. Very good. Very good. Very good. Yes, that's it. So because it's a managed service, and again, there is a terminology you have to always go with managed service. Okay. What is managed service? That means it's a service which is managed by the cloud provider. You don't have to worry about it. You just have to use that service. So when you talk about managed service, that means the all five things, okay, or maybe rather four things when I talk about, or three things. Sorry for that. So three things: security, high availability, and scalability is a responsibility of a provider. Correct? It's a managed service. That's what we generally call it as a managed service. Azure Blob is a managed service, right? That means you don't have to do anything here. It's a platform as a service. Okay, you just have to use this platform, dump your data, access that data. That's it. Only one part is this: security is also one of the things which you'll have to also care, because security is always a shared responsibility, guys. It's always a shared. That means it's shared between you and the provider. You cannot imagine, you cannot say, like, for example, when you buy a Mercedes, right, they are saying that it's a highly secure 5 grade security things, and everything is provided. Okay, so that means if you drive this car, if you get hit also, you will not have any problem, because we have 6 airbags and very best in class kind of a steel which we have used, and all those things. Does that matter? Does that mean that they claim that yes, you will never get die in case if you are not wearing the seat belt, or you are forgot to unlock your car, and you are still expecting that that car will not get stolen, right? It's definitely something which we have to consider as a shared or a hidden responsibilities. So that is very important. Okay, creating the store, when you are deploying this application, or you are actually putting any data onto your blob storage, they will actually store, first of all, they will store this into multiple regions. So they will first store it here, and they will start replicating it to other regions. Okay, replication will really happen. Now, why this replication is important? Because they're claiming that it's highly available. Imagine in case if something happens with this availability zone, they still have a data available in another zone, other zone. If still there is a problem with two zones, still they have a third zone available. So that's where they are claiming, and it is very unlikely to happen that you are really getting data, kind of like your all available three availability zones are really going down. That's not happened yet. Sometimes it might be happen, but moreover, what they are claiming is that you may get impacted with the access. So imagine, say, like, your availability zone is down because of some network issues, and this happened. Okay, this happened that in a lot of regions actually of Microsoft or AWS or Google Cloud, they went down. Okay, that doesn't mean you lost the data, because yes, it's something like, because of your mobile phone's battery went down, that doesn't mean that your all the mobile or the data whatever you had on your mobile is gone. No, right? Unless you format that. So that's not the case. So exactly the same case happens with storage also. In case if you are not able to access this data, doesn't mean that data is gone. And that's where they claim that even though, don't worry, even though you are not able to access that particular availability zone because of some or other reasons, but still your data is safe. Okay, so that is very important. So data resiliency is important. That okay, you are making sure that data is persistent there, data is there, it's not lost. Okay, so they will really provide you all the information. Now, and you can really jump put everything as whatever you really want. Now in this one, they have three types actually which you can really go with. Again, in a blob, they are really providing you more types. The first type, when we talk about, okay, so they have a tiers actually which we generally call it as tier. Okay, you can see AC tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Have you traveled into a travel tier 1 or tier 2? I'm sure you must be. So there are three tiers in the AC, right? Now what is that three tier? Three tier: AC tier 1, AC tier 2, AC tier 3. and it again tier 3 is the lowest. Okay, because definitely it's because you are using that one. So that's where they're also having a tiers here. Now the tiers names, the first tier is a hot tier, second tier is a cold tier, and the third tier is archive tier. Now why they are really providing this tier? Because when you're talking about the data and when you are storing that data, right, there are, and these are all the decisions which you are really need to make when you are putting that data on the cloud. And guys, when you're talking about the cloud computing, it's all about planning, it's all about the architecture, it's all about how you want to really put up things and how you want to utilize them as a maximum. Okay, that's why we are learning cloud computing. Okay, otherwise if the cloud computing is very easy, then anybody can really learn, but we have to understand that how to use that very effectively. It's like outside you are seeing the ocean, everything is good, everything is fine. The moment you get in, right, that's where you start feeling the pressure, the start, that's where you're feeling that okay, you don't have oxygen, even though the, the sea inside is very beautiful, but then you have to really start learning about how you can enjoy that beauty, otherwise you cannot survive. Correct? Have you ever tried the scuba diving or something? It's really look very beautiful. You see people are doing, they're going inside, but the more you go deeper, right, 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, definitely the pressure gets built up, your anxiety gets in, you start panicking, all those things is coming up. You've never imagined those things, but in case if you know how to really swim, or even though you know how to swim, but still if you go inside, definitely there is a different world. So you should be really know how to understand that, how to breathe and all those things, so you can really start enjoying this thing. Cloud is also same thing. You have to be geared up with all the equipments, you know how to really do, what to do, what sign you have to really use, so you can enjoy the beauty. Same thing. Okay, now when we talk about the tiers, when we talk about tiers, so data is always in multiple formats or multiple kind of like the accessibility levels. For example, I have 10,000 documents. Okay, say like I have this document, and I have a lot of documents actually I have created. Okay, maybe I am having millions of documents which I really have. Now what is happen, these millions of documents, whenever I'm actually creating these documents, I want to now I want to really ensure that where which tier I should really go with. Okay, these three tiers really provide three different level of access and cost. It's all about cost, right? So the first hot tier is a preferred tier, that you should always go for this tier, that's what they recommend. But again, it's depend on the accessibility of your document. Say like you have few documents which you are regularly access means every time you are going to access that document, and you need that whenever you want quickly access, and you should be able to really do with that. There are few app documents which you rarely access, maybe once in a 1 week, once in a 2 weeks, or once in a month or something like that. Then there are some documents where you want to actually keep them only for a longer time, just from the auditing perspective. So say like after every year you have an audit, and that time you have to really provide those documents. Other than that, you don't really use it. Or there could be some mandatory requirement that you have to keep this document for 5 years or 7 years. There is a mandatory requirements from government of India. Okay, that you, for a company perspective, you have to really keep that data for 5 years or 6 years. Okay, now you have to separate out these data into different tiers. Got it? Now when we talk about these tiers, companies, and then again, accessibility perspective, from the kind of like the cost perspective, it's all matters. If you put up in a hot tier, say like for these two documents, you may have to pay, oh sorry, the cost of this one, say like 10 rupees per per month, for example. And this is a monthly cost, right? This is a or maybe I'll just say 100 rupees, so which can really make more sense, rupees per month. The same two documents example I'm giving here, two documents I'm saying. Now with this one, if you put up in a cold tier, it actually 50 rupees per month. But if you put up in a Archive tier, it's literally 1 rupees per month. That's the cost. Okay. And when you are having this cost, definitely this cost will also come up with some compromises. What kind of a compromise? The compromise is if you are paying 100 rupees for two documents, Microsoft will ensure, and then the security and availability of this data is one thing. It is available, highly available, not a problem. It's all about how quickly you want to access it. It's about hot tier will always provide you instant access to your services. Like you go, you try to access their data and it's available, readily available, it's already there. So it's a quick and a hot access. Okay. Cold access is something like, or maybe you can see, you want to have a dinner and you want to really use the hot pan. So hot pan thing is like it's ready to eat. So you are going, you're taking it from the hot pan and you're just eating and you're done. But in case if it is cold, that means it's in a freezer. You will take it out, you will hot it, and then you can consume it. Right? That means it's taking time. Okay. So that means exactly the same as I mentioned. So hot and cold is that definition. That hot is something which is ready to eat. Cold is something which you'll have to make hot and then you can eat. So it will require some time. It's not immediately available. The archive is mean that it is actually kept inside some go down. So they will take it out from the go down, will make cook it again, and then we'll give it to you. It's a raw material for a kind of a scenario, or maybe you are actually keeping that dish in somewhere in the go down. That's the thought process here. Okay. So that means hot is immediately available. Cold you will need to wait some time, like maybe hour or so. Archive you may have to wait for a week. Okay, or maybe 2 3 days, based on again a best case possibility, whatever they haven't really mentioned. But yeah, it's quick, but not that quick. Okay. And that's where, when you are storing your data, because what they do, whenever you put up in a hot hot tier, they will keep it near to your location, whatever is possible. If it are cold, they will actually use some low powered or low, because it's all about the hardware, right? The hardware component which are really backing with this all things. So they will be keeping all the latest greatest hardware and software to really support this hot, because they're also getting paid. But in the cold one, they might use some older configuration, some older devices which are slow, which are not really very fast, and all those things. And for these things, they will definitely use something like a very tape drive kind of a scenario, right? Some disk actually which they are keeping it here, they are pulling it out and keeping it somewhere else. So it's a traveling time and all those things really matters. So far with me, guys, you are able to follow me? Any
Yes,
questions?
sir.
Very good. Okay. Now, when we talk about these 3 years, there is one more thing which Microsoft really smartly did. They came up with something like a transactional. Okay. Now, what is this transactional? This transactional is actually helping you to be placed in the middle of your hot and a cold tier. Okay. Now, this actually sits here. So, for example, right, when you are selecting this tier and you are not sure that what kind of a data you have, is it is it like highly accessible data, or is it low accessible data? So you're not sure about that, right? Whether you should really put it in a hot or you should put it in a cold, you're not sure. So what Microsoft or Azure will really do, they will ask you, okay, no problem, if you're not sure which tier to really select the transactional one. Now what this transaction will do, it will monitor all the data whatever you really kept up in this transactional one, and ideally it will first put up in a hot tier. Ideally whatever data you are really putting up, it will start putting up in a hot tier. But slowly, if you see that, okay, you have put up the 4 files here, okay, and all 4 files are inside these kind of like all the 4 files here. But slowly it will start imagining that, okay, I think you are not accessing this one file, okay, frequently. So it will automatically move that file from hot to cold. Automatically movement start. And then after some time, it will also observe that, okay, I think this file is also not getting used. It will move back again here. So it will kind of like move it from hot to cold. But in case if you start accessing that file more frequently, then it will move this file again from cold to hot to make it more accessible here. Now that's a smart AI, like artificial intelligence actually, which is really running behind this particular thing, which is evaluating that okay, which file you are really frequently accessing, which file you are not frequently accessing, and that's how it is automatically doing the movement for that to save your cost, right? To save things, because you might be storing 10,000 documents. Not every one document you know that this is something which I am really doing this, so you can use this. This is a free of cost. You can really go with this. Is good in case if you know that this is a very transactional basis things, and which is I feel that this is a better move in case if you are not sure about this one. Okay, so guys, I think too much of theory, but this is very important because you should really know about all this concept. Remaining three things, we will get into more details, but today we are going to get into the Azure blob service. Let's start. So once we are in the portal, I'm going into something like a storage account here. So if you type a storage here, you can really see something like, okay, or you can also see in the inside left side, you can also have a storage account. I'll click here storage account, and let's create a first storage account. So I'm going to create a storage account. Now here, when you are going to create a storage account, there is a naming convention which is very important. Now we talk about naming convention. Naming convention is something which you are naming your uh, service actually, because account service in a way that it should be really unique in terms of all the accessibility, because this is a globally accessed service. You have to really provide a name which is very unique. Okay, otherwise it will not allow you. So for example, if I just put up a storage here, okay, I'm sure this already name is already taken. It will not allow me to really do this. Okay, what I have to do is say, like for example, ABC storage. I'm sure this is also been used. So that's where you have to really put up the unique name. Now that unique name, something like I'll say RKVRIT training, for example, as your storage. I'm sure this name might not be available. Okay. And then it is saying you can only have lowercase and you should really go with 24 characters. So I'm saying, okay, fine, no problem. So I will remove some characters here. Fine. So this is a Azure REST. Maybe I just put up Azure training Azure. That's it. So this is the one which is now available. I can select which location or which region actually I can really go with, because we are all in India. I'm sure, or maybe some people are actually maybe outside India, but I'm just selecting the India thing, whatever I have. So we have three options in India. I have West India, South India, and Central India also. Central India is not listed here. Let me see. Yeah, Central India here. So I'm just putting a Central India, so we can really have that. Within that Central India, definitely you have a lot of availability zone, which is automatically getting done here, right? Now here I have a performance. Again, when we talk about performance, even with the hot tier, you also have a very premium kind of a performance. It's all about, guys, when you go with the cloud computing, the more compute, the more requirement you have, the more performance requirements you have, the better services you will have to really go with, or the better services you go with, the more price you will have to pay. As simple as that. Okay, so I'm just giving a standard here. Now redundancy is also something which is there. You can have a geo redundant storage, or you can have local redundant storage. You can have zone redundant storage. Now there are a lot of options actually which you can really go with, right? Again, the more you select, the more you can really go with. And it itself is say lower cost option with basic protection against server rack, dry failure, recommendation for non-critical scenarios. If you go with the geo redundant, intermediate option for failure capability in secondary region, recommended for backup scenarios. So again, it's all depends on how you want to really place up your infrastructure. I'll go with the local redundant for now. Let's see next. Now here it has a lot of options. I'm just going to skip it for now. Okay, but here I want to really give you some options where you can select the accessibility tier. It is automatically taking that, when you are creating a access store, by default it will automatically go with the hot tier. You can select the cool tier also here. I'll also show you how you can really do the archive thing or transactional ones once we are really going here. I'll just click here and enable public access. Now here there is one more thing which we want to really understand, that when I'm creating a storage account, I have to ensure that whether I want to access to my external people or not. Now, what kind of a scenario it is actually which we really want to do it. For example, if I go back here, I can create in the storage account. There is something like a container I can create. Okay, in a storage account, I can create something like a container. Okay, I can create a container. Now there are two containers I can create n number of containers, not a problem. But what is the use case for creating a public or a private container? So I can actually create a private container, okay, to store all my private or my confidential data. So I can create a one private and another one public one. Okay. Now when I talk about public, that means I want to allow access to my container to the publicly available users, anyone who can really connect to it. Now why I should really create a public access? All these images, right? For example, if I go to any website, for example rediff.com, okay, if I go to rediff.com, all these images, the HTML file, the JavaScript, everything whatever I'm seeing right now, this is all actually coming from the public access storage account. Everything is coming from the public access storage account. This I can store because all these images and everything which I want actually to people to really see, I can keep them public storage account. But all the data which is behind this website, right, which I'm collecting, say like user information, maybe videos, links, security parameters and everything, I want to really keep it in the private, so people will not be able to see this information. So that's where we can create a public or a private one. Okay, we can also create this, and this is what the strategy you should be really following. Okay, let's go back. So I am going to enable this data protection. It will enable all the data protection and everything. Encryption, I'm not going to encrypt anything. Let's see, I'll keep it the by default encryption whatever is provided here. Okay, and I'll create. Go to resources. Okay, so now I can see my storage account is created. This is the uh, basic information about my storage account, resource group, subscription, the details about this one. I can now have four options actually which I can really create from. So first option is a container, okay, which is for the blob storage, the file server, the queue and the table. Let's go into the container, and I can now create a container here. I can just click here container, and then it is actually allowing me, because it's a anonymous private access, because I have already created a private thing here. It is not allowing me to really change the status of my access here, because by default when I created the storage account, okay, that time I mentioned that I want to strictly create the storage account for all private access, no public access provided. So for public access, I can create a separate storage account itself. So which I can provide or I can use it for my all the public accesses. So I'm going to name this as like my web application one, web app one, for example, right? And I can also have an option, selections and everything. I'm going to create this. Now I have created this here. If I put anything, right, in case if I want to put any data, I can go ahead and start uploading that data from here. Okay, meanwhile I want to really give you another option. So if I go back again, let's go back and let's create one private, or I can actually change this from public to private also. For example, if I go here and from the access, 1 minute, from the configuration, I think we should be able to change this. Yeah, okay. So configuration allow blob access enabled here. I can enable this one because which is now anonymous access is what? Like anybody without any authentication can access my resources like images or videos or something like that. Exactly same thing which I did for Reddit.com or any website you open, right? Say like if it is a public website, you are not asked to really provide or log into that particular thing. You can just anonymously access it. You don't without anyone logging into that one. So I can really allow these things. Then only it will really go with the options here. Perfect. Save it here. Let's go back again to the containers. Let's try to create a new container. It might take a little time. Now you can see it is actually allowing me to create a container which is having a anonymous access. So for example, I can create a container which is having a read access for containers and blobs. Blobs means whatever the data which I'm having by big large binary large objects. Okay, I can really click on this one and I can create this one, say like images, for example, all my images. So everything I can really keep inside this one, I'll create it. So now the data, whenever I'm going to save it in these two things, they will have a different kind of a access. So let me show you something. If I click here, if I go to upload, and if I want to upload some files here, right? Let me see in case if I can upload some files here. So I will browse the file and I will select something like this. For example, I'll just click OK and I'm going to upload this file. Okay. Now this is uploaded. I can click on this file. I can copy the URL of this file and I can go and I can paste it here. So you can see the URL is coming like this. It is coming like my email, the storage account name, blob.core, Windows, then images as my container, and then the name of my file. If I enter, I should be able to see the file which I uploaded. Same thing I'll do with my other container. Let me go back here. I'll go click here because this is a private. Let's see whether it is allowing me to access that or not. I'll go here because I'm accessing this as anonymously, right? Because this is where you can, if I provide you also, you should be able to also access this one. So let me see. Maybe slowing this session. Okay, I've sent you one link. You can check that link. Guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay, perfect.
Yes, sir. Able to
Now
hear
I'm
you.
going to add one more file here. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to add that same file. I'll upload it here and I'll say upload. Exactly same. I uploaded in two different containers. One container I've allowed as a public or maybe anonymous access. Second one I actually created as a private. I don't want to open this one. Same application. I click here now, and you are able to access this one, right? Now, if I go back here, I can copy this and I can paste it here. It says restriction, no resources. Now you might be wondering that actually I have created this resource and I'm myself is not able to really access it. That is how the cloud computing works. Okay, because when you are creating this one, you are getting access to create or upload anything, but not access whatever is provided inside this one. Okay, because you are a, say like you are a creator, but however you are not really controlling this particular piece. You are, because you are not logged in here and you are logged in here as an anonymous user, so you cannot really do that. You cannot access it. Exactly same thing. If you are creating a virtual machine, by default, you are not really able to really do this. But there are some ways I can allow you to really access this particular resource. And what are those ways? We'll see tomorrow. Okay. So guys, I encourage you to please go ahead and create your storage account, create a public and a private containers, try to upload files, try to access those files and see how things really works out. Perfect. I think that's it for today. We'll stop it here and we'll connect tomorrow for more details. Thank you. Any
Okay.
questions before we wrap up?
RK, small request. So is it
Yes.
80 part done?
80 point. Yes, for now, AD is done.
Azure AD is done completely.
No, no, no. That's what I'm saying. Azure AD is not completely done. So
Okay,
I
okay.
have explained you some bit pieces about the Azure AD. Now we will revisit that one. Again, I just want to ensure that, we are not going to completely cover the AD thing because as I mentioned, right, there are a lot of things actually which inside the AD. So I'm going to give you the core components of AD. Get it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. We don't want to expect complete in depth, but at least okay, mm, the people should understand, right? What basic things and all.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so we'll check.
definitely. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's what
yeah.
I'm saying, right? So when you start
Mm-hmm.
working on this one, right? So because AD is yes, I understand that one point. So yesterday, what I said, please do the practice on that one. There might be multiple permutation and combination we have, and as we move forward, right, the access controls and everything will really come into the picture. Azure
Oh,
Active
okay.
Directory will come again, right? As I mentioned yesterday,
Okay,
also I
okay.
mentioned that we will slowly go. For example, when I'm creating a storage account, slowly you will see some more options here, but as I mentioned that I will go deeper into some technologies which are very important because this is a Azure DevOps course, right? I'm not teaching the Azure. Maybe this course is mostly focusing on the DevOps practices, not the core services of Azure, because it's done. Actually, if you ask me, nobody is really looking for the core. Maybe there are few companies who are looking for the core services, but now everybody is looking for the DevOps thing. That's why we are actually going for one step further and explaining you the services which really are more important nowadays. Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
okay.
Sure. Thank you very much. Any other questions, guys, before we wrap up? Okay, for now then, we'll talk to you tomorrow.